finally, a source of raw, real, and honest information on healthcare issues that matter most. Welcome to BS Free MD. From the latest medical information to how to stay sane as a doctor or a patient, no subject is taboo, no BS is allowed. Now, let's welcome your hosts, Doctors May and Tim Hindmarsh.
Welcome back, everybody, to the show this week. I feel like I'm saying step right up, everybody, but this is actually going to be a really fun episode. We have an amazing guest, and if you are a healthcare professional, you need to listen, especially, if you're counseling patients on diet and weight loss. If you are a person that's struggling with diet and weight loss, this is for you as well. And for all those people that know what it's like to struggle with weight loss and being heavy, we have a great guest. But that's a teaser before we get into the show. A quick word from our sponsor, the sponsor this week. This is MR Insurance, a small business that helps physicians with their disability insurance needs. Michael L. Relvis is a CFP professional and insurance agent committed to helping physicians nationwide with their term life and disability insurance needs. He provides an objective, transparent, and education-focused process that aims to help physicians make prudent decisions and avoid overcomplicating things. He exclusively offers own occupation disability insurance policies for residents, fellows, and attending physicians. We really like Michael and know he's got your best interest at heart when it comes to disability insurance, and we know he'd be happy to help you with whatever your needs are. So you can find him at www.mr-disability-insurance.com. All right, everybody. 1-800. Welcome back to another great episode. I think this one's going to be really I will link that in the show notes. Fun for our non-medical listeners and very relatable. This is really inspirational. A great story with nutrition and health and weight loss. I'm looking at Tim.
Hanging around
with us today,
with Daniel for an hour
Reyes,
honestly makes me want to be
tell
less
us
of a
his
jerk.
personal journey and story with all right, here we go. Giant weight loss that he tackled himself, developed some really interesting techniques and tactics, but what the journey was like and where he's at now. And I think people will get a lot out of this and can really relate. So Daniel, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
So why don't you start off, just share with everybody, a little bit about your background. You're not in the healthcare industry, what do you do and what's life been like for you?
Yeah, my background is TV development. Basically about 4.5 years ago, nearly 5 years ago at this point, I found myself in at least in my local hospital, they call an end-of-life room. I've heard they're also called hospice rooms.
Okay,
they had found,
I was just going to say end-of-life room, is not at least where I guess our generation of a term has used. So maybe it's something new because I saw that you posted the end. I'm like, what is an end-of-life room? Is this hospice? Is something going on?
So literally palliative care.
Yeah.
Like you're waiting to die.
Yeah.
Heaven's waiting room.
Exactly.
So you found yourself in an end-of-life room at, can we ask how old you are?
I was like 36.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, they had found multiple, they told me multiple clots in my lungs, blood clots in my lungs, and in my right leg. And, yeah.
And so they found, can you tell us a little bit more about the backstory? So what was going on that caused the clots in your lungs, your leg, and that all of a sudden you're in hospice care, end of life? What had been going on?
For a month before that, I was really, really sick. Ended up I had a really severe bronchitis. Couldn't sleep laying down. I had to sleep sitting up. And in that time, I gained a lot of weight pretty quickly. I was very difficult to breathe, to walk, the whole deal. And finally, my family and friends encouraged me, like, you need to go to the ER and see what's wrong with you. Because typical guy, I'm like, I'll get over this cold and be fine.
Wow.
Okay,
Yeah.
So that makes medically that makes perfect sense. So you had this bronchitis or whatever it was. You were laid up, so you're immobilized. You're obviously overweight at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, you're gaining more weight because you're just laying there. So you're immobilized, ergo increased risk for clotting. And wouldn't you know it, you get a blood clot in your leg, it moves to your lungs, you get a pulmonary embolus, and oh crap.
Right. Right. I had the blue lips, a hard time breathing, just a few steps, the whole deal. So walked into the ER, walked in around 11 o'clock in the morning. By 5 o'clock, they were inserting a tube into my neck to go into the lungs. I'm sure you guys know what medications, but to bust out the clots.
The clot busters going in there,
Yep,
right?
the clot busters. That's exactly what they called it. Left the tube in there for 24 hours. I was in the ICU for the first 24 hours. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So at this point, so they're breaking up the. Do you even can you remember? I don't know this details. I get fascinated on, but when you went into the ER, do you know what your oxygen saturation levels were at? Do you remember any of those kind of details?
Oh no, I don't remember those numbers. I remember
Okay.
that when they asked me about the surgery or procedure, whatever you want to call that,
Mm-hmm.
they did tell me that there was a chance I would not survive it, and there was a
Wow.
significant risk that I would not survive it. But the higher risk was not doing it.
Wow.
So yeah.
So just from having the procedure, they told you from having this procedure, there's a high chance that you wouldn't survive the procedure. Obviously, the higher risk was not doing anything.
Right.
And wow. And I mean, were you in total shock? I'm sure you were at this point. Did you think I got a pneumonia or something, and that's why I'm going to the
that's
hospital?
all I thought. Yeah.
Right.
Right. So,
Had anyone in your family had a history of blood clots before?
no.
Okay.
No. And they did the genetic testing, and they said there was no significant showing anything that would have caused it. But
yeah, so it was immobility, bad luck, being too heavy, the usual suspects.
Yeah.
Obviously not birth control pills, but
No, not those.
So wow, okay.
Yeah.
So go ahead and keep going. I mean, now, so they kept you in the ICU for about 24 hours.
Yeah.
And then we're, breaking up the clots. And then how long did you stay in hospital for?
So I was in the hospital for a month, out for a month, and then into another hospital for another month. So
to walk us through that, because most people, will think, I know a lot of people who had severe blood clots. They go in the hospital, they keep them in for, give them the clot busters. If they're doing fine, then they put them on some injectable medication, Lovenox, those kind of medications, Coumadin, and away they go. And it's a slow rehab. Tell us about why it took that long to get you out of the hospital and then into the in and out. What were there complications? What was going on?
yeah, so I'm sure you're gonna love all this. I can already tell. There's all sorts of complications that happened to me. So after the first 24 hours, they said they this is how they put it to me. They're gonna give me a really nice room, and it's gonna be great, and I'm gonna love it, and it's special. They didn't tell me it was an end of life room, so they wheeled me in. Yeah, and it was great. Like, it was maybe 2-3 times the size of a normal hospital room. Just really nice. Had like a giant, like 60-inch TV in it, and yeah, it was nice because
my eyes are wide open because I'm like, there's such a thing. Of course, we don't frequent palliative care rooms, but I'm like, wow, you must have been thinking, what is this?
Yeah, they're bringing in lobster tails, and all the nurses are in naughty nurse costumes from Halloween. And,
yeah, just like that.
That's your end of life room.
Or beginning of life, as the case may be.
Oh my
yeah.
Okay.
No,
okay.
It had crazy stuff in it. Like, they had a like essentially like a type of Netflix that had movies that were in the theater at the time.
Really? That's a special kind of Netflix right there.
Yeah. So like, it was weird because they think you're dying, right? So like, they want to make it as comfortable as possible.
And was it very much transparent? Did they say, we think you're not going to live? And this is what's happening, or was it no?
No,
You're just in the hospital, and this is the room you're in.
so apparently I later found out that they told everybody, and of course, like as they walk in towards the room from the hallways, it's signed that this is the end, you know. But for me, they just said, "Oh, we're gonna put you in a nice room. We got this great room, and you're so cool. We're gonna put you in it." Um, I do remember very early on, I would hear moaning from across the hall, and I asked like, "What's going on over there?" And they said that man had cancer. And I remember thinking, well, that's weird that I'm next to a cancer guy, because I know like typically they keep, like cardiac here, cancer, like, so I was like, oh, that's weird, but whatever. Like I was so drugged up, I didn't really think about it.
So was a lot of this, were you actually on a lot of medications that, you weren't as coherent in making these decisions, or were they reaching out to your, I don't know if you're married or who
No.
the sort of next of kin in your family is, but were they actually acting on your behalf to make medical decisions at this point?
So there, part of it was there was just so much going on. People visiting. I was getting looked in on all the time. Especially in the beginning, they were checking my blood and checking me out for. They were afraid of internal bleeding and things like that. So there was always someone in the room checking on me. They had me connected to. I was also born with the heart condition, transposition of the greater valves. So
Ah,
that was
yes.
also part of the fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that puts another big, monkey wrench in it, because obviously you've had multiple surgeries when you were
Mhm.
younger, and then complexity to
Yeah.
things as well.
So you obviously got better because you're not
Mhm.
still in the 60-inch TV naughty nurse room, which,
Right.
Yeah, well,
and
I want to know
and
when did you realize what this was? How
The
far into
the
the
hospice
hospital
room.
journey? Yeah, yeah. How far along did you really go? Oh wow, they don't think I'm gonna make it, even though
I
they're trying to
didn't
do all
find
this
out
stuff.
until like the last night I was in there, when they told me they were going to move me to a regular room, and I was like, "Well, why? I thought I was just. You said that this was a nice room for me, and that was it." And they're like, "Yeah, you're doing better now. We don't have to worry about you as much."
so then it's like, so then you're back to like the 7.5-inch
Mhm.
TV, Nurse Ratchet and TV Land and no cool
Now
Netflix,
you know what
Yeah.
right?
it's really
Now I
like.
don't get to pick whatever I want from the cafeteria. It's like, here's the prison food.
Yeah. Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's actually really, really funny. It's dark as hell, but it's really
It
funny.
is dark as hell, but it's what happened.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So
So keep going.
yeah, so within the first week, it was really just keeping an eye on my blood levels, because they're trying to bust up the clots and everything. Uh, Apparently there was too much of the blood thinners, and I did develop internal bleeding. So then that was another complication. From there, they would put a lot of contrast in me to go check out the internal bleeding and monitor that. And because of all the contrast, I ended up my kidneys started shutting down or being severely. Yeah, you're already like, I know this whole thing.
Yes.
Yeah, and
So
yeah.
for our non-medical listeners, absolutely. I mean, the people forget that your kidneys are, just as important as your heart and lungs, and they're the filter. And if they're not working and they're shutting down, the
But you got to.
you get the um that's a very common cause of death for people, is kidney failure, because everything can't detoxify, and that is the end. So that, okay, now you're into kidney failure, and that's another concern. So obviously that can take weeks to, we know, months of, even for people to bounce back or not. Were you ever
Hmm.
on dialysis?
No, never on dialysis.
Okay. Okay.
So I lucked out there. They had put in some sort of like mesh filter in my stomach to catch clots too. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
An
So
IVC filter
okay,
is what that's
there you go.
called.
Yeah.
Just to show off a little bit. So
So obviously, I mean, you've painted the picture where, I mean, people will totally get it. I mean, this is like a very extreme, severe complications in case of severe blood clots with complications. And here you are, they really think that you probably aren't going to make it. And
Mm.
now they've got you out. You're back on the regular ward. You're fighting. So you finally, how long was it then? You get released from hospital. Is that right? And then you're
Yeah, so I
back
was in
home.
the end of life room. So total, I was in that hospital for a month. 3 weeks was in the end of life room. Another week just in a regular room.
Mm-hmm.
We call
And
the
then
regular room purgatory.
Yeah, I think he
right,
does too.
yeah, yeah. But and then eventually I got out. I went and lived with my dad for a month because I couldn't move. The atrophy had set in, and it still being very heavy. I just couldn't move. I couldn't take care of myself, and so it was rough. It was really really rough. They gave me I was on warfarin, and then forget the name of like it was shots I had to inject into myself for blood thinners.
Yep.
Yeah,
Lobanox.
yeah. I
Yeah.
had a big bag of those, and yeah, injecting myself regularly. And that month was rough, and I really wasn't improving. So we decided that I should go back to the hospital, and we went to a different hospital this time, over in Spokane, Washington, just because it's so close. But that one, the reason we picked that one is they have a congenital cardiac ward, and then with my heart stuff, we figured that's probably the better spot for me to be at, and it ended up being it was for me.
And it was another month in that hospital in Spokane.
Another month in that hospital, yeah, yeah.
Ay
They
caramba!
Yeah,
Wow,
they
that's a
they
long
were
time.
afraid because I'd put on so much weight, um, that I had started going into heart failure. So they wanted to make sure to get off any extra water weight that I may have potentially had. So that's why they kept me there for a month, and then with all my issues,
Yeah. So
and then they,
now
yeah,
you've got complicating things because if you already, and we haven't even asked how much you approximately weighed when you went into hospital, and then you're having organ failure, kidney issues, retaining fluid, which puts stress on the heart, and then if you're going to heart failure, you get extra fluid, more weight gain, more. I mean, it just keeps compounding.
yeah.
Yeah.
The highest weight that I know that I got to was about 460 ish, and I'm only 5'5", so I
Is
yeah,
that when
big.
you were in hospital, or are we
Yeah,
talking before
when I was in the
before
hospital,
admission? Okay.
because the first hospital stay they didn't even focus on the water weight. They were just like, we got to figure out the clots. So
Right. Right.
yeah,
So, what did you weigh before you got sick originally? You know, 6 months before.
yeah, typically like between 360, 380.
Wow. So you gained almost 100 pounds just with the lying around being ill, then fluid retention,
Mm-hmm.
etc. The snowball effect. Wow. That's
Yeah,
like a quarter
Yeah, that's
of your body weight. That is
Yeah, because a lot of that would have
amazing.
been water. Like
Yes,
it would have
yeah,
exactly.
the third spacing fluids. I mean, there's all this technical stuff that happens, but yeah.
yeah.
So, but 360 is significant.
It is. Yeah, it is. And I had lost a lot of weight before, and it didn't stick using traditional methods. And so that had been discouraging, and I was trying, but you know,
Okay, so let's before we uncap that can.
yeah.
Uh, were you always kind of the husky boy when you were a
Mm-hmm.
kid?
My whole life.
Okay,
My whole life.
so it wasn't like you broke your leg when you were in 10th grade and then you gained weight and you're like, whatever. I mean, we'll just have a different lifestyle. It was kind of that's who you were.
Yeah, well, it's so weird because when I think about it, um, when I was an infant, I would not gain weight, and so when they had to do the open heart surgery on me, um, my mom says that they recommended that I drink castor oil to gain the
Yeah.
weight. Yeah,
Uh
this was in the
Wow.
80s.
yeah, I was gonna say I don't even remember. Yeah, there you go. Blame it on the 80s. I love it.
Yeah,
There.
so at
So
16 months, I had the open heart surgery for that.
Right. And it's I mean common that infants that have congenital defects of their heart, that's one of the signs of we call failure to thrive. That's not gaining weight and growing appropriately, and that's why you have to bring your baby in all the time for all the little growth measurements and checks because it's an indication of how well organs are functioning and etc. But so as you got older, um, then is it a genetic or is it a family trait where you've got a lot of heavy people in your family as well?
Not really. Not
No?
really. I mean, there's
Okay.
some, but not a
Yep.
ton. Not like you would think.
Sure.
Um,
So,
Just half a ton.
oh,
yeah,
stop.
right.
Now you're
Exactly.
being totally rude.
Sorry, no,
So
that's
walk
fine.
us.
Sorry,
So we're just trying to, get a good picture of,
Yeah.
your life before, where you're at, your lifestyle. So obviously you get to your 30s, you're weighing in at 350 ish before you get
Hmm.
sick, right? And
Right.
um, aside from the congenital, had you developed any other medical complications as well? I mean, were you having any diabetic concerns yet? Anybody talk to you about blood pressure? Nothing. So far,
Nothing.
you know, things are going well otherwise with your health, other
Hmm.
than lots of weight. You tried different things to try to lose weight. Nothing stuck,
Hmm.
like you said. And then all this happens.
So what did you
Right.
try?
Well,
What did you try that
Before?
failed? Yes.
Yeah. Oh man, I've tried point-based systems, low calorie. I had been with a dietitian and had given was given plans. I tried you name any diet. I've tried it. I feel like my whole life. My grandpa was a bodybuilder in Mexico, so he was very concerned my whole life and encouraging me to try different things. Like
mm-hmm.
I remember working out with him as a little kid just to do anything. Yeah.
Interesting.
So what, before I mean, I find this fascinating. I mean, give us some examples. Was there anything that you found that worked pretty good, um, that you had tried? I mean, I define pretty good, I guess, right? That gave you that seemed to want to stick or last the longest, but for some reason, you couldn't carry it out,
So in my late
or was there
20s,
really nothing, or was there really nothing? I mean, it's just like, this is all crap.
so in my late 20s I got down to 220. And that was I did that through like a high protein, low carb type diet. Specifically, it's called the Dukan diet. I don't know if you guys have heard of that one.
Mm-mm.
No.
It's fairly popular in Europe,
Mm-hmm.
not so much over here. Developed
Okay.
by some guy named Dr. Dukan, and
Right.
yeah, it's like a list of 100 foods. You can only eat those foods. Every day in the morning, you have I think it's half a cup of steel cut grains, oats as
Mm-hmm.
your fiber, and then just like one day, like it's one day it's all protein. The next day it's proteins and vegetables, like non-starchy vegetables, and then it just goes back and forth that way.
Okay,
Interesting.
why did it fail?
It was really hard to stick to. On top of that, like there was no salts, no seasonings, like everything was bland. I did that for about 8 months, and I did lose quite a bit of weight.
Wow, good for you. I mean, that's a long time to stick with
Yeah,
No
something.
season, like no salt,
nothing.
like that. Like seriously. Meanwhile,
Seriously.
Ducan is sitting in the south of France with a
A margarita.
a snifter
I'm
of
thinking
like
anyway.
rare brandy. Going, I can't
Hmm.
believe those dumb
Yeah.
bastards didn't need any salt.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
mean, I'm sorry, like
Yeah.
it's like anything. I mean, we have a trainer, and we've done athletic endeavors our entire lives and injured ourselves way more than we would want to admit, et cetera, et cetera. And the key to anything, like whether it's financial stability, whether it's weight loss, whether it's exercise, is sustainability. So
Hmm.
you have to get to a point where it it's fairly seamless and not super arduous, or else no one will do it, right? Like,
Right.
so that's always been my concern. Like, patients come in, they'll lose a ton on keto, and I'm like, okay, so you're never going to have chocolate cake at your granddaughter's birthday party ever again. Well, I said, well, then why are you doing this? Because you can't sustain it. Like, to do
Hmm.
it for 6 months is really cool, and it's awesome to see what you're capable of doing. But if you can't live that lifestyle, you're doomed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so interesting. So the high protein diet seemed to work the best. Is there? I'm just curious. At some other crazy ones that you tried that didn't last so well. I just remember things from our generation, like Suzanne. No, who was it? The grapefruit diet. I remember that one from the
Oh
80s,
yeah,
where you,
yeah,
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 yeah, things like that. Did you
yeah.
try? Okay, so did physicians recommend specific things to you, like your family doctor or anybody in the
I mean,
medical
they all just
profession?
said eat less calories, work out more.
Okay,
That was the
eat less,
common.
right, right. And
Yeah.
what about dietitians? Was there any kind of theme that would go on in? Because you said you've been to some dietitians, correct?
Yeah.
Was there a
Yeah, there
theme
was a
across
lot
that
of
board?
like 6 small meals a day, no more than
Uh,
like 300 calories per meal. Um,
mm-hmm.
there was like remember like a lot of cranes and carbs in those little meals. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
common theme in
Yeah,
traditional dietetics.
and
Absolutely.
frequent carbs hasn't made a single person hungry,
right.
right? I mean, it's like frequent beers. Oh,
Hmm.
I'm 2 beers into the evening. Why am I craving peanuts?
Yeah.
I mean, like, I
Right.
don't, some of the lack of common sense in traditional healthcare just makes us insane. Like,
Hmm.
I used to get into these big debates with dietitians that were counseling diabetics, and I'm like, if you're a type 2 diabetic, you have a disordered metabolism, and you do not need carbs. Like, if you can train somebody to eat basically zero carbs, they'll get better way faster, and they'll reset their metabolism, and then you can add a little bit back. But instead, what they do is exactly 6 meals, and it's just like
But
it's darn near popcorn and pasta.
but
And I'm
there
like,
was a
are you
time.
kidding
There
me?
was a time for the 6 month that was in trend. I mean, even in the bodybuilding world, my
Hmm.
friend was doing that. It was, keep feeding the fire so that it burns fat, and you don't want to stop eating so that you're just
And a lot of them still do that. I think The
fueling.
Rock does
Yeah,
that. So yeah,
probably.
yeah.
But the thing that's interesting is here's the key. Here's the secret. Here's Dr. Hindmarsh's secret
You're supposed to
sauce.
save that to the end.
Whatever. I'll replace. I'll repeat it. But the secret sauce is this: every single calorie restricted diet will make you lose weight. There's no way around it. It's the law of. It's the first law of thermodynamics, the
Mhm.
conservation of energy. If you're feeding less energy into the system, the energy has to come from someplace, and you will burn protein and fat and whatever's on your body, and you will weigh less.
Mhm.
Okay, that's simple. So you come to the doctor, and doctor, 5 minutes of seeing you, it's like, yeah, we'll eat less calories, have a nice life, and don't be sad. Okay, well, how do I do that? Well, just eat less. And then you wonder why they fail, right?
Mhm.
Because did they speak the truth? Yeah, they spoke the truth, but it's entirely unhelpful, because unless you can sustain calorie restriction in some manageable way,
Like moving to Ethiopia.
or living in a famine.
Right. No, that's
No,
what I'm
yeah,
saying.
right. But I mean, so like it's
It's
all
it's
it's
not
all
it's
kind of
not sustainable long term.
right. It's all kind of nonsense.
Correct.
And so, like, people say, well, what's the best diet? And I'm like, the one that you can sustain.
Well, let's ask
Mhm.
Daniel.
Because no, because there's nothing more culty in the entire world of health than nutrition. Like, people get in these camps, and I mean, it makes the troubles in Ireland from 30 years ago between the Catholics and the Protestants look mild. It's like, no, I'm keto, no, I'm paleo, no, I'm like, no, you're just a guy that's
Mhm.
modified his diet and improved his health. Good for you, yippee ki yay.
Yeah. Yeah. That
Well,
that's I feel the exact same way. Like, you got to find what works for you, and then if you can do it, great.
so let's fast forward or back or however we want to look at this too.
Yeah.
You're out of the hospital, you're doing your shots and your warfarin and busting clots.
Mhm.
And so what changed? What happened? Tell us how you started to change your life.
So I was told at the second hospital as I was leaving that I really needed to lose weight because potentially I would need a heart transplant. And if I didn't lose weight, I probably only had 5 years. And being that we're basically in the 5th year now, doing pretty good. Um,
Woohoo!
yeah, yeah,
Awesome.
That's so
Awesome.
awesome.
That's like
I
yeah,
love.
totally celebratory worthy. I love it.
yeah, for
That's
sure, for sure.
congrats.
But there was a few years there where I didn't know if I would make that, right? Because I would try anything and everything because I didn't want to die, you know?
So right away when they told you that, did you just think, okay, well here we go again? Yeah, everyone's told me to lose weight.
Hmm.
Was it different this time though? Because now you have like your lifeline right in front of you, or what happened?
I don't know if I would say it was. I mean, it's different in that there's now a clock over your head, right?
Mm-hmm.
So so that's different. But the other thing that made it hard was anytime a diet didn't work out or there was stagnation or some sort of failure, it was really deflating because now that's time off the clock. It's not like I had this endless runway in the back of my head, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big change. I did try all sorts of things. I went right back to Ducan because I knew it worked before, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And how long do you do that for?
maybe about 4 months, and then it
Mm-hmm.
started plateauing. The other issue I had is I had all sorts of complications from everything else constantly. I developed planters. I can never pronounce it right. Fastilia.
Fasciitis.
Yeah,
Okay.
that one. That one. So there were bouts where I could not walk. Um, I would have issues with my blood medications. Um, I do remember one time they would test my blood regularly for the warfarin, and it got over whatever certain level. If I remember right, it had to be like at a 7 was the highest, and I got over that. Like I had a bloody nose that went on for I think it was like 6 hours, and so they admitted me into the hospital for a few days to stop that.
Right.
And
Yep.
yeah, so like every time I would do good for a little bit, it would stagnate, then something medically would happen and it was just defeating, right? And and it was hard.
Well, I think, yeah, I can't imagine that because that
Well,
whole that whole clock thing is just I mean, it's not a metaphor. It was reality.
I
I
think
mean,
Yeah.
it's hard. It's hard when people don't have medical setbacks, just regular life setbacks. I mean, you go on vacation and your diet and exercise routine falls apart. It's a celebration. It's Christmas. It's Thanksgiving. It's always something.
Hmm.
There's stress. There's
it's
family
Saturday night
stuff.
and there's guys beating the hell out of each other that I need to
Oh
watch.
yeah, there's the MMA pizza part,
That's
whatever.
true. Yeah, that needs to be watched.
Right,
Yes.
but you're
Yeah.
you're right. It's all you make a little progress, and it feels like you just slide further back, and it's
Right.
self defeating. So,
Right.
um, okay, so we know. I mean, this has a good end, not end ending, but you're in a good place. So, what's changed? So you would have these setbacks. Is there? Tell us what you did that seems to be working for you now. Where are we at? What's
Yeah,
been
so I
happening?
I got to the point where my last line was I thought, why I need to do weight loss surgery. That's that's the only other thing I could think of, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've had family members who have had it and it worked for a little while, but every single person I know that had it has gained all their weight back and if not more.
Yep.
So already I went in feeling defeated, but thinking that's what I got to do. Um, there's two clinics within an hour of me that offer that, and one clinic said that they had a 30% success rate on a 3 year timeline from when you have it 3 years later. 30% of their people are still successful. The other clinic said that they had a 35% success rate on that same timeline. So I went with the 35% because I want that five extra. Um, and so the reason they had that extra five is they actually had a program with it. So you would meet up with the dietitian. You were supposed to lose a certain amount of weight beforehand to show that you were serious, and that was kind of their secret. They also had like a regular support group where you could go and talk about your struggles and all that. And it was filled with people who have had the surgery, who were going to, back and forth, and just help each other out. So I went there, and first thing they told me is, you're going to lose 40 pounds to prove that you're serious. And to do that, we're going to put you on a liquid only diet. And they gave me these shakes, like a protein powder type meal replacement shake. And they said, have 3 to 5 of them per day, and you'll lose the 40 pounds in a month. And that's it. Go do it. And that seemed very overwhelming, but I didn't want to die, so like I figured, all right, I'll see if I can do it. And I did it, and it was surprisingly easy to do 30 days of not eating and just having these shakes. And I went in, and they were very happy that I did it, but I'd only lost 20 pounds, and the dietitian said clearly I had cheated. But I didn't. Like, I knew I didn't.
Okay, I am really glad that there's no weapons within reach of my hand right now, because it's just like is okay. You clearly, like, if something doesn't work, clearly the right thing to do in medicine is to blame the patient. Obviously, it can't possibly be anything that the healthcare system does. It's always the patient's fault. Sarcasm is my love language, if you haven't figured that out. I mean, like, it's just staggering. So you do exactly what you're told with these protein shakes. So it's absolutely 100% controlled number of calories, controlled number of macronutrients, the amount of fat and protein and whatnot that's in there. And you only lost 20 pounds. So then what? They hit the ejection seat and said, Daniel can't have weight loss surgery, or what?
Yeah, they said you got to hit the 40, so we're going to go another month. And just keep on with the shakes and keep going. And man, I walked out of there and I was really, really bummed, and it sucked. And at that time I was, it's not scientific at all, but I was following all sorts of Instagram and TikTok accounts of like people who've had weight loss surgery as like inspiration to see what they were doing. And, I tell people the algorithm is tricky, right? So like it shows you one type of weight loss, then it started showing me people who did intermittent fasting. And, I did 10 years of news, so I pick up on patterns pretty easily. And I noticed that people who had the weight loss surgery, their accounts for about the first year or so seemed pretty active. And then a lot of them went dormant. Whereas people who did intermittent fasting, they seem pretty active. I mean, of course, there's dormant accounts like anything, but overall, most of them were pretty active the entire time. The other thing was the ones who had the surgery, they lost more weight probably in the first 2-3 months, but the intermittent fasting, it was far more consistent. And long term, over the course of a year or so, it was about the same weight loss
With no surgical risk.
with no surgical risk.
Plus, you're a surgical risk disaster. Sorry,
Oh, yeah.
like, just being honest.
That was more of it too. Yeah.
Right? It's like, this poor young guy's going to bleed out on the table, or this guy's going to,
I was going to ask that. Like, I was going to say, before you even got to the part where they turned you down because you didn't technically lose enough weight and you cheated, was the fact that you're just such a high surgical risk given your cardiac condition, your previous conditions, the clotting. I mean, yeah.
Well, and then on top of that, most insurances don't cover weight loss surgery. So
correct.
It was tens of thousands of dollars out of pocket to do this.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happened? You have me
Daniel
literally on the edge of my seat.
So Daniel's getting smart and he's noticing a pattern.
So Daniel is actually researching and thinking for himself and not just doing what the dopes in the healthcare industry told him to do.
Yep.
Well, at that point, I had about a year and a half less, maybe 2 years on my clock, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I had tried everything. And I had just gone 30 days of not eating, just the liquid diet. And I see all these people losing weight with intermittent fasting. And I thought, look, I can go back to this. I can do the liquid diet. I can keep going down this path. But I've got a couple months. Let me try this. Because at the very least, if it doesn't work, then I'll know it didn't work. And I can keep going. because I got a little bit of time still. So I did it. And in the first month, I lost 35 pounds of intermittent
Wow.
fasting. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so what cycle were
Yeah.
you on? Like 16, 8, 24, like because there's a million different
Yeah, there's a lot
Right.
of
fasting
different ways.
cycles.
So what what
There's
did you
so
do the
many
first
ways to
month?
not eat.
Right. So what
Yeah.
did you do the
I
first
love
month?
it. I love this guy. It's so fun to talk to.
Yeah, so tell us the first month. What did you, I mean, I'm sure you were just kind of following, I don't know. What were you doing? What were you following and
So
how did you
yeah, I
decide?
mean, news background, right? So I did a bunch of research and I tried to
Mhm.
figure out what to do. And so I started with 16:8. I figured, okay, I've skipped breakfast before here and there. I can live with that, you
Right.
know. And I'm motivated, so sure. And I did that for about a week, and it was really comfortable, like really really comfortable. And then I thought, well, I wonder what happens if I keep going, if I just go a little bit longer. And probably within another week, I was down to one meal a day, and felt fine, felt
I,
completely fine.
and are these the shakes or these are this is regular
Just
food that
regular
you make?
meals.
Yep,
Yeah.
okay.
Now, did you
Yep.
look at any of the nutrients of what you were eating? Like, would you eat, because one meal for some
Yeah.
people is, you know, two fish sticks and some cottage cheese, and for somebody else, it's,
It's
4,000
And
calories
Thanksgiving.
of pasta. You
right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
Thanksgiving,
was it
exactly.
calorie based meal? Was it whatever you felt like till you were full? Was it your previous diet, the protein focused, or was it anything? I guess
No,
that's what we're
well,
looking at.
I had read enough about it that I knew like you can't just go nuts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your one meal couldn't be a bucket of KFC.
Correct.
So,
Good for you.
It could
yeah,
be half a bucket of
Yes.
KFC.
half a bucket,
Okay,
right?
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right.
So
Yes.
so I did I knew that before low carb and high protein had worked for me, so I figured I'd
Mm-hmm.
start there for my
Mm-hmm.
one meal. So
Mm-hmm.
I would do like I don't know, typical would be like a chicken breast and maybe some steamed veggies, put a little bit of butter and salt on them, something like that. You know, being Hispanic, I would do like taco salads, right? Not a burrito, but like a taco salad, stuff like that. Um,
According to
looks
the
like you want to
former
ask a question.
president,
That's why I stopped.
no. According to the former president, Trump Tower has the best taco salads.
I've seen that
Great
picture.
taco, great,
I threw
great. I
I
love
th- I
Hispanics. I
throw my
love
hands in
Hispanics.
the air.
No,
Okay, if you can
this
get
is
a moment to throw that in, you
no,
will. Let him
no.
continue.
Mockery is another one of my love languages. So, but at any rate, love the
Yeah.
Hispanics. So, okay, so you have this other knowledge. So there's a theme here though that I really get jazzed about, which
Mhm.
is all of the failures or the perceived failures you had in the past were still part of the ultimate solution.
Right.
Like you still learned a lot about, how much is 500 calories,
Hmm.
how much is, 30 grams of protein, et cetera, et cetera. So even that struggling with what were perceived failures because they didn't get you to the goal that you wanted or sustain the goal, they
Hmm.
were still worth doing.
Right. Right. Because I learned. Right. I learned. I like at one point I tried to go vegan. Right. And so I learned that I can't do that because I will just eat all the rice. Rice is my favorite. Right. So I can't. I do like plant based meals. I think they're delicious, but I can't go vegan. Every now and then, sure, but no. Um, but yeah, I lost a lot of weight, and I was really surprised that like I was able to eat fairly regularly and still losing a lot. And so I was like, well, I'm gonna just keep doing this, and I'm not paying tens of thousands of dollars to do it, you know.
Yeah. But the medical industry is pissed off because you didn't pay tens of thousands of dollars into the
Oh,
system.
I know.
Like, way to take care of yourself, man. That's not the American way.
It's kind of crazy. So the funny thing about it is, right, so like I lost a lot of weight. So far I'm down just about 180 pounds. I'm down to 280 right now. So
Good for you.
yeah,
This is
That's like that's incredible. That's
yeah.
great.
And
So,
still losing, right? Still consistently losing, which is great.
right. Yeah. So this is clearly again, right? What diet works? The diet that works, right?
Right.
I mean, if you have to be calorie restricted, you have to have macro and micronutrients that keep your body humming along,
Hmm.
and it's all about sustainability. Whatever you can sustain in
And I
that
find I
framework
can
is what's
stick to
going to
the
work.
fasting. Like it's fine. It's not.
So,
It's not an issue.
so do you do the same thing now all the time? Do you stick to the same fasting schedule? How do you plan that out? I mean, is it still one meal a day with your 16/8? Do you vary it up? What do you do?
Oh, I vary it up. I mean, I've I've done stupid things to test myself. I've gone as long as 6 days of fasting and felt completely fine. Um, the other crazy thing is, so like, I've seen my cardiologist and hematologist since then, right? And my cardiologist, when I first started doing the fasting, I had gone to him the year before, just on the medications and trying diets, and the difference in weight between that visit and my first time fasting was only like a 10-pound difference because I would constantly yo-yo. But with the fasting, my EF rate was significantly higher. I went from the 40s to the 70s.
Oh yeah, so
So
it's normal. I mean, you had a normal ejection fraction if that's the
yes,
case.
yeah. I mean, they still monitor it. Like I got to go every year, but
Right.
it's looking good. And he's surprised how much better I'm doing. You
So,
know?
for the people that don't understand EF ejection fraction, it's how well your heart is functioning, how strong it's pumping, and you're going from heart failure to getting like back to reversing and normal heart function.
Yeah.
That is that that
Yeah.
is
It begs the interesting question, which is it just weight loss, or is there some other secret sauce that happens in metabolically and physiologically to people in fasting states? And I think the answer is yes. It's I mean, it's clearly both, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of reasons I think to fast that are not like, even if you don't need to lose any weight. I think there's reasons to still
Yeah.
fast. I mean, I think it's in all these ancient wisdom cultures because it's something that's real and not because we just made it up. You know,
Well,
Eh,
the doctor who won the Nobel Prize, I think in 2016, forget his name. He's a Japanese doctor. He showed all the benefits of autophagy, which is derived by fasting.
Yeah, actually, I'm just getting in honestly into listening to there's a podcast that you might like. Actually, we interviewed him, Dr. Greg Dennis, and he has a podcast called Fit RX. And I started hearing about autophagy on that show and some other things related to that, and heard about, you're right, this Japanese scientist and the whole 9 yards. And it's, I mean, it's fairly new, and the
Yeah.
intermittent fasting and the fasting process is now becoming like a newly researched type of thing
well,
as far as what
yeah,
it's doing as far as cell
right,
turnover.
but it's amazing because
It's like,
if you look at ancient wisdom,
well,
like
I was going to
you
say
go back to
it's not new, but
right,
Yeah.
but you go
what,
back to like
yeah.
Hebrew dietary laws, which is probably the oldest religious law that's been recorded. I mean, there was always periods of fasting. I mean,
Yeah.
Jesus fasted for 40 days for heaven's sake. I mean, this
Yeah.
was I mean, and it's so I think there's more to it. And you talk to people about the mental clarity and all that.
Hmm.
I love I personally like just the self-denial aspects of it. I think in our culture that psychologically is a healthy thing to do once in a while.
Yeah.
you
Do
know
you,
I think so
so
too. Yeah.
do you ever check your, do you check your ketones in your urine, anything like that? Did any of your specialists recommend or are concerned about your past issues with kidney function from when you were in the hospital? I'm assuming everything's okay now. Do you ever have
Yeah.
to check
Um,
that with the fasting if you're in ketosis? Do they worry about that at all?
no, but every 6 months I get a renal panel to check
Okay.
everything. Yeah,
But
blood work.
otherwise, it's not like you're dipping your urine and checking
No,
anything and worrying about. All right.
no, nothing like that. I do go every 6 months to the hematologist,
Hmm.
and since the fasting, I've seen him twice now, and both times he's come in and said, "Your blood work is perfect." And the first time he said that, I was like, "Oh, you mean for me with all my issues and everything?" He's like, "No, it's perfect." And this last time, which was a couple months ago, was the first time he's ever said, "Look, if you keep going down this path, there's a good chance we can get you off your meds.
And that's got to make you smile,
Oh
right?
yeah, like
So, do you know how many calories you eat a day?
well, I'll go for days at a time most times. So I'll eat every few days, and when I do, I'll keep it within like 1,500 to 3,000 calories for the day that I eat.
Are you insane psycho hungry ever?
No.
Okay, because no, like this
I
is
was gonna say
exactly the information we
I
want
mean,
for
people want
people.
to know, like, yeah,
Yeah.
how do you do that? How do you say no? I mean,
I
there's
mean,
so many. The big thing for people is temptation and always the psychology
right,
of, well, if I can't have it, I want it more.
right.
And then I tell people, well, just tell yourself, give even a half an hour. Are you going to want it in a half an hour? Um, Maybe, but how do you? Is there any times you're tempted? It's like,
Oh,
I
of
just gotta
course.
have it.
Yeah, of
I mean,
course. I'm a human being.
uh-huh,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right.
Um, the crazy thing is, like, I tell people this, like, if you're gonna start doing this, start with low windows. Like, if it's 12 and 12, get used to it. Make it easy so that when you go to the longer windows, it's comfortable. Because if it's uncomfortable and you hate it, you're not going to stick to it, like you said, right? It's got to be
Right.
sustainable.
Okay, so you
And
started.
I would say everybody, so honestly, to start with, most people should be able to do a 12-hour fast. I mean,
Well,
but
Yeah.
if you think that you eat the last meal of the day at, say, even give yourself 7 o'clock ish,
Hmm.
you should be able to not snack at night, um, make sleep throughout the night, get up in the morning at 7 a.m. I mean, that's 12 hours right there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so is that how you did it? Like you went, 12 or 16 to start with, and then just kind of continuously ramped it up as
Hmm.
time went by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liken
Yeah.
it to
And then
running, right? You don't start with a marathon.
Exactly.
right.
Perfect. So, any
Yeah.
tips for, like you said, as far as if you're feeling tempted, hungry, um, things that you do to help yourself out along the way, things that
Yeah.
work?
Water's huge, right? Like if I get hungry, I just take a big swig of water. Usually within a few minutes, that's been stomped down. The other thing too is with fasting, like the hunger hormone really kind of reduces. So you'll get hungry, but it's not like ravenous. You're not going nuts. So that's pretty nice. Um, but yeah, those are the two big ones.
Do you ever notice on those days where you're going for long periods of time, sort of a sense of euphoria, change in your mood, um, anything like that going on, or not really?
Yeah, people have told me that I seem much happier.
Uh huh.
Um, of course, a few years ago I was nearly dying, so of course I'm happier. Like now I'm
All
not.
right.
You know.
And so
Um,
I'm asking this actually from the point of view of somebody who had the opposite issue. And when I was a teenager and into my early 20s, I actually had anorexia.
oh, okay.
And and so just sort of sharing what I can remember from back then is that the longer I would go, I mean, and it's fasting as well. Sometimes tiny little things, a bite of like I'd allow myself an apple or
A wafer thin mint.
yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. But the longer I went, the more of a high. And
Yeah.
I definitely know that there was, I was undernourished, so it's not healthy, but the neurochemical changes going on in the brain as well as the body, um, it was almost like I was getting like a second wind, and I would get
Hmm.
this euphoric feeling, which drove me to go longer with without eating. And I know that some people who do intermittent fasting for weight loss have said that it gets easier, and there's almost this sense of, now I feel really good, I have more clarity.
Hmm.
That obviously you don't want to do this to be unhealthy, but
Right.
that it does get better. And I'm just saying that for people who think, oh my gosh, it just seems like the longer you go, the more
No,
difficult it would
those are the
be.
people that break their fast with mushrooms. They'll
Yeah.
get that.
I
So
mean, yeah, there is that what you're talking about. I do
uh-huh.
find that the longer I go, the sharper I feel. But I also find that I don't sleep as much the longer I go. Um, which seems weird, but I'm not tired on those days. So
Interesting.
that's interesting.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
I want to throw in here. So I know that you've developed something called fasting dice, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell us. a little bit about that because we're talking about intermittent fasting. How did that come about? Why? Like, what does the fasting dice do? I mean, I know a little bit about this, but I want everyone to hear it.
Yeah, so as you can see behind me, I'm just a giant dork. And one of the things I like is, play games and all that. And as I was doing my fasting, especially, getting out of COVID, because it was easier to fast when COVID was going because you're not going to go anywhere. So, um,
No groceries needed, right?
right, no groceries needed. You're not going to go out to a restaurant at that time, so it was a
No,
little bit easier,
correct.
you know.
Right.
Um, but as things started opening up, of course, like I wanted to go out and hang out with friends, but I would have these windows, and it was tough to like maybe go to lunch or do something with a friend, right? Because I didn't want to give up on that with all the progress I had made. So I thought there had to be a way to kind of develop and change up your windows regularly. And so I looked online for anything, and I couldn't find anything. Also, it kind of occurred to me that like fasting is supposed to mimic like ancient eating patterns, right? Like because they were more opportunistic as they would eat, not scheduled. So I figured that was missing too from fasting. So I just came up with the idea like, well, everyone says the roll of a dice, right? Randomizing, right? So I thought, well, what if there was some dice that had your fasting windows and your eating windows, and they don't exist, so I made them. I've got them right here, and they're different lengths on each side, and patent them, and now I have them.
So you roll the dice, and it tells you what to do, basically.
Yeah. So like, if I rolled them right now, right? So I would get
Hmm.
I'll show you right now, a 16-hour fast,
Okay.
right?
So the
And then
one the one die has 16-hour fast on it. So yeah, you got two. What's on the other one?
the other one is a 6-hour eating window. So now that's your fasting time and eating window. And then when that's over, you can roll again for the next one. And so it constantly changes it up.
And it magically adds up. Well, wait, 16
I
and 16 is 22.
right,
Right.
but you roll again when your eating window's over, so it cheats.
Okay.
It potentially cheats on both ends, which is actually really cool
Yeah.
because
Yeah, I get it.
that would mimic you know humans were hunters way longer than we were gatherers or
Right.
or doing agriculture, obviously. So if you look at what people would do, I mean the
He's
per,
got to hunt and kill that sucker in 6 hours, or he ain't getting nothing to eat
that's
today.
why I'm not vegan, because I hate hunting tofus. They're terrible. They're slippery little buggers.
Yes.
But it's fascinating because if you look, like, it was Burkitt from Burkitt's Lymphoma, the guy that came up with the whole concept of if you eat tons of vegetables, you get less risk of colon cancer. This is all back from the like 50s, I believe. But he would follow these hunters in Africa that lived in the jungles, not in the desert, and they would kind of run walk 15 miles a day. They'd eat tons of leafy vegetables because that's all they had, and then they would kill antelope.
Hmm.
So when you look at that, they're eating this, you know, high fiber, not super calorie dense food, and then when they kill something, they eat like crazy, and then
Right.
they might not get that again for 4 or 5 days.
Hmm.
And then if you look at North American natives, they're chasing buffalo for the love of heaven, right? And for half the year, it's freezing cold, and you're eating dried buffalo meat, essentially, pemmican or beef jerky. So you're eating like crazy, and then you might not be eating for 2 weeks,
Right.
and that went on for countless generations. I mean, that that
Hmm.
that really never ended until the Indian Wars and the reservation system and all of these things.
So this is cool because it takes the boredom out of it for you, right?
Right.
Instead of, I have to think. I mean, almost it's like, yeah, I got to think about this. I'll just roll the dice and I'm going to just do what it says. And
Well,
do you
and
use
I've done
those
in
all
the
the time
past.
now? Yeah.
Huh?
I was going to say, do you use those all the time now, or
Y-
is it just kind of hit and miss, or what do you do?
So I've developed other ones because now that I go longer, mine
Uh
will
huh.
go up to 5 days, and I'll roll those. But for other people who are just starting out, this is a fun tool. There's even a cheat on it because every now and then you got to have a break. You know?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yes. I was just
And
going
it
to
makes it
ask about
fun
that.
too, because like, yeah, hey, do I get a cheat today? Do I not? Let's see.
I love to roll like
No, this is
666 cheats in a row. You know what I mean? It's just like
yeah.
cheat
It's
day, cheat
cheats,
day,
not
cheat day.
Cheetos.
Right,
No,
right.
but
But the other thing I was thinking of, Daniel, is that this is similar to what people will do with training, exercise systems instead of doing the same routine, week after week after week. I mean, and you probably learned this too from your
From my
grandfather,
grandpa,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. Is that you got to fool your body because it
Hmm.
adapts. So you want to switch up your exercise as well. So it totally makes sense with diet
you
that
got
this
to
would be
fool
kind of a
your
really
body,
good.
and then you must make
What?
sure that the steroids you take, you cycle
All right,
correctly,
stop.
or else it doesn't work.
You're getting good.
Maria, bring the kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that's part of it, absolutely.
I'm
So
speechless.
no, I love how you gamified this.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that is just
And
a
so you
genius
sell these
concept.
now online,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, on
And
fastingdice.com. They're right there.
fastingdice.com. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
And so this is really exciting. You're still on your journey.
Hmm.
You've
Because we all are.
Right. Well,
You never
I'm only a
arrive.
year in, and I got a
yeah,
lot to go, but
I
I'm doing
know.
it.
But I mean,
Well, you've already lost an entire human being
I know. Yeah.
in a year.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's amazing.
And I mean, you got to feel proud and positive and this is you've done a whole 180 in your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope you feel that way because
Oh, I
this is
do.
super
Absolutely. Like,
encourage. Yeah, this is like I would call a success story. I mean, it would
yeah.
be
It's a
cool.
wildly out of control
Yeah,
success.
it would be
story.
cool to follow back up with you again in like 6 months or a
Yeah,
year
that'd
and
be great.
see how things are going.
Yeah.
And if anything's different or if you're still doing the fasting
Oh, yeah.
uh, or what else you've learned from yourself along the way or new things, because there's really cool. And I love is that you took your health really. I mean, you reached a low point,
Yeah.
the ultimate low point. I
Yeah.
mean, you're in hospice, palliative care, and then you took your life in your own hands and you went, I can do this.
Yeah.
I have the power. I can research it. People have done it, and you're doing it. That's what this
Yeah.
is so awesome.
It's been a wild ride. I'm really glad to be doing so much better now. I mean, even my cardiologist is like, he's gone from like, you had 5 years to like, we don't even know if you'll need a transplant at this point if you keep going this way, especially.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's awesome.
Do you do regular exercise walks,
Hmm?
something like that?
I guess
And
because of my grandpa, I really love lifting weights. So, like, actually, after
okay.
this, I'm going to the gym. But yeah,
Awesome. And I'm sure he's giving you the talk, the importance of muscle building and muscle burns more calories and
hmm
all that good stuff.
Especially after you cycle.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we're not here to tell you what to do.
no, we're not here at all
all.
to tell you
We
what
are
to do.
here to listen to your story and learn from you and
Mm.
share it with everybody else because this is the kind of stuff that we love and learn from our patients.
Yeah, no, this is well, and that's the thing, right? I mean, we're real advocates for the individual is their own best doctor. You come to us to access our training because we have different training, but it should be a collaborative effort
hmm
and not just somebody telling you what to do. And like,
Well,
quit smoking.
like he said, you got to listen. You have to listen to your body and know what works best for you.
Yeah,
Obviously,
Right. And then then there's all these other things that go along. There's emotional eating issues, and there's all the
right.
people that have had abusive situations and X, Y, and
hmm
Z, and blah blah blah. And so sometimes the fix is not a particular diet, it's therapy. I mean, who
Yeah.
knows, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to for sure put up your link to your dice, and then do you have any social platforms? I mean, do you share them with other people? Can we put them out there in the show notes for
Yeah,
everybody?
yeah, I'm on
Okay.
all of them under Fasting Dice. It's all there. Even
Okay.
like if somebody just can't afford the dice right now, there's even a free guide on my website that
Uh-huh.
focuses like emotional, like how to handle some of the emotional aspects of weight loss, and that's all. There's stuff that I've dealt with. Like one of the things I've learned is emotional eating. right? Like I was one of those people, I didn't even realize it, how much I would run to food for comfort when I was feeling bad. So one of the tips that helped me, especially in the beginning, is I kept a notebook around me, and whenever I felt like, okay, I'm feeling down, I need chicken nuggets, I would write down why I'm feeling down. I would write down how I think chicken nuggets are going to help this situation or whatever it is. And then when you write that down, you realize it's not going to help. And then you start writing down what you can do that would really help the situation. And that processing really got me over emotional eating.
I think if
Okay.
most people did
No,
that, it
no,
would
I
be life changing.
no, I really like that. I mean, essentially, you're doing what's called rational emotive therapy, where you're taking the emotion, you're rationalizing it, you're criticizing whether it's rational or not, and then you're making a different decision.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be like, I just had a fight with May. I need counseling from Dr. Jack Daniels.
Well,
no, that's not going to work.
But like what he's saying is when you write it down and then he reads it back, it's as if
Right.
he's, counseling someone else in a way, and then you go hearing it differently. It's like that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, Ben and Jerry's ain't going to help this.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, all right. So yeah, I'm going to put your links to your Facebook, Instagram. I think I have the Twitter link as well.
Yeah, it's on TikTok. It's on all of them.
Okay. Easy to find. This is so cool. We really appreciate you coming on and sharing all this. Is there any, last sort of parting advice, tip, something that we haven't covered that you'd like to throw out there at all as far as this journey or your health?
I really have a heart for people who like have struggled their whole life, because I've been there, right? And I'm still going through it, but I'm doing it, right? And so like I just want to help people. So if the guide or the dice can help you, that's great. And there's videos on YouTube that I make to help people. So like, yeah, reach out to me if you've got questions, and I'll do what I can for people.
Awesome. So exciting to hear this. Well, Daniel, good luck with the next little while.
Yeah.
I want to keep in touch, and
Absolutely.
let's see where things are at in the next bit.
It's awesome. Just awesome.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We have a word from our sponsor, which appropriately enough is Steelhead Fitness.
You want to be around for your loved ones. You want to stay active, go places, have fun. Your health plays into your quality of life. Why not get your health moving in the right direction and get fit with Steelhead Fitness? Exercise is preventable medicine. There's so much to gain. You'll feel better, be more active and vital, you'll lose weight, and have a healthier mental outlook. Steelhead Fitness provides everything you need. A friendly, helpful staff, a clean, safe environment available 24/7, and a variety of options to fit any lifestyle, including cardiovascular fitness, strength training, group fitness classes, senior programs, and nutritional health, plus personal training, state-of-the-art tech, and free introductory programs for new members. We're a fitness center for the whole community. Steelhead Fitness is dedicated to your success, so you can be around to live life at its best. Get moving. Come in for a free trial today. Steelhead Fitness on Main Street in downtown Sweet Home. What's your reason to be fit?
Daniel was so inspirational, so fun. What a sweet guy, and what an amazing story. And I mean, that's obvious. I didn't really have to say all that because it is what it is.
Yeah, no, it's.
And I'll never look at dice the same when they're hanging in my windshield of my car. It'll just make me hungry. No, I'm kidding.
or not hungry, as the case may be. No, it's fascinating because, I think May and I both gleaned something entirely different out of that experience. I mean, it was so. It sounds, Hallmark movie, but it was really heartwarming. Like, here's this poor kid who's just the sweetest human and struggling and struggling and struggling, and thank God he was smart enough to actually be able to figure this stuff out himself. Like, I think of people that maybe didn't have his background or his research abilities or whatever, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we need to reach these folks and tell them that there's hope.
Yeah,
and that's such a great story.
The common theme of bad advice, bad medical advice, unhelpful medical advice, and dismissive medical advice, right, is kind of sad. No,
I mean, it's actually counterproductive, because what ends up happening to a certain to a lot of people, potentially most people, is once they've failed 2 or 3 times, they are imprinted with failure. It's not that they failed and so that didn't work, which means that one thing I tried didn't work. I need to try something else. It means I am now a failure. If I am now a failure, I will continue to fail. Ergo, I'll just go back to my previous habits and stay stuck.
Exactly.
And that's an incredibly sad place to be. And it's an even more sad place to be when we as physicians push people into that world.
Well, I know that, we're having some fun personally experimenting with our diets and exercise. We've talked about macros. We've talked with, the intermittent fasting a little bit. There's so many different aspects of it, but obviously, the important thing is for people to really learn their bodies, what works for them. And
yeah, but here's this kid who's a gamer and he gamified it. He like that to me just gets me so unbelievably.
Well, you have to know how your brain works,
right?
And,
so rad,
and go with it, right? And that it's
because
awesome.
For me it was always challenge. Right? Like once I was challenged and I started running and I go, this really sucks, and then it starts to kind of suck less, and then you go, well, how much more can I do? How much more can I do? And I know May and I are both motivated in that regard. And, that's why we went into medicine and did these sort of things where there's, delayed gratification and whatnot, because our brains work that way. And we've also realized tremendously through the fitness coaching that we're experiencing right now is there's as many different ways to approach a problem as there is people. And there is not one size that fits all. There just is not. There's not even necessarily one size that fits most. I definitely have my biases on what works better. I think higher protein, higher fat, lower carbs is easier to sustain, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's for everybody. I mean,
right.
At cultural aspects, I mean, if you grew up in an Italian family and you're never going to eat bread and pasta again, well, really?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, this is inspirational. So we hope to be bringing you more of these in the future. And, it really fits with our theme for the year on just courage and inspiration going forward. So I like it.
Awesome. May has a closing message for us.
Well, we want to give a great shout out again to our sponsor, Michael Relvis at MR Insurance. And remember them, where their goal is to assist physicians in obtaining the most comprehensive coverage available to fit their unique situation. And reach out for both excellent and quality service at www.mr-disability-insurance.com. Can't wait to see you guys next week for more fun, and find us on the World Wide Web, where we are posting links to all our antics, including, using ourselves as guinea pigs in the oxygen chamber infusions and our diet progress.
Oh,
we want to see your before and afters, Tim.
When I will be posting my
not in a Speedo. You keep that to yourself.
If you like my before and afters, you can DM me. I don't even know if May knows what that means.
I know what DM means.
So, when do we get to experiment with mushrooms? Are we doing that one too, or are we just not just doing the macros?
Mushrooms are loaded with protein, and that's okay. The ones in the can that are button are the only ones you're getting.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Bye.